choosing colours for your coloured pencil drawing. This can be quite a challenge when you're a beginner, when you start using your coloured pencils, and it is more challenging than you expect. But I'd like you to be aware that it does take time and it just takes practice as well. And the more you can do, the quicker and more familiar you become with your pencils. I'm Kate Jenvey and I'm a full-time animal artist and tutor, and I'd love you to leave your comments and any questions you have below, and I'll get back to you. I'm going to give you some guidelines that have helped me along the way, and I hope they help you. I would suggest that the more you can do, of course, the quicker you're going to become familiar with your pencils and layering and blending and mixing colours, and therefore choosing colours, and it enables you to see the colours. So I suggest that you start with small subjects and simple subjects, and the more you can do, the more experience you're going to get. And also I suggest keeping a limited palette. So if you start with fewer colours and one brand of pencil, and get really familiar with how they mix and blend and how that brand feels on the paper that you use, this will build confidence really quickly, and then you can expand and use other brands and a lot more other colours. But I have a list of 30 colours that I suggest you start with, and it's more than enough. You can do an enormous amount with those colours. So we'll take a look at the palette and how I select my colours, and I hope this helps you. This is my general palette of colours. There's 27 colours here. I actually recommend 30. The list is in the description under my freebies. But this is more than enough colours to begin with. And I strongly recommend that if you begin with a limited range of colours and get very familiar with how they mix together, and you can make a vast range of mixtures just from these. You get very, very familiar, the colours become automated, and that gives you confidence. And then you can expand out into other colours and other brands. So I do recommend polychromos also for beginners because they're easy to source. The main feature is their high quality. They're mostly light fast. All these colours here are light fast. They mix and blend beautifully together, and importantly, they can be bought in open stock. And because mammals have a limited colour range, us as humans are included in that. When you think about it, our hair colour is just blonde and brunette, redheads, and people with black hair, and that's about it. So animals are the same. They have very limited pigments, and so this is more than enough colours. So in polychromos, you can build your animal set just by single pencils rather than buying a whole set and having colours you might never use. And also I love the greys. There's 14 greys, and they are the workhorse of animal colours. They can be used to darken and lighten all these other colours. They're lovely in shadows as well. So we've got 7 cold greys, with Payne's grey the darkest. We've got 7 warm greys with dark sepia the darkest. My blues are dark indigo and blue violet mainly. Cinnamon is a lovely natural pink. The yellows and oranges, yellow ochre, brown ochre, burnt ochre, terracotta. You can see they progress nicely from a yellow to a nice muted natural orange. And the reds are India red, caput mortem violet, and burnt sienna. And I have burnt umber and black. And as you can see, that's the only brown, the 2 browns that I have. I mix my own browns rather than using the browns out of the tin. Just a quirky thing I do. But this is a really good starting point. You know, if you want a soft apricot colour, you can mix cinnamon and yellow ochre. If you want to lighten any of these colours, you can use your warm greys. And the same, you can use some of the warmer greys to darken these reds, darken some of these. So it's generally, that's an excellent colour range to begin with. So we'll take a look at some of the colours that we can mix, starting with his face. For the white, I always leave the white of the paper. And I think when you begin selecting your colours, to ignore a lot of the detail and just basically look at the range of colours. And often as you build up your drawing, be prepared that that can change, because colours influence each other. So the main thing is you've got to keep the accuracy of the fur direction, the length of the fur, keep your values correct, and you can adjust the colours. You can get away with a little bit of variation in the colour, but if I'm going to use these colours as the basis for his head, you can see they're all pretty close, but they're not. If I put this yellow ochre down, you can see it's quite a strong yellow, so it's not the yellow that's there. So I would use warm grey, and I find I only use the warm greys with the yellows, because the cold greys tend to have that blue in them that can just not meld well with the yellows. They can go a little bit green sometimes. So I would pick warm grey 1. We'll just pop him over here. Just push that down a bit. Warm grey 1 as one of the colours. Definitely is going to be used a lot. I find the greys the workhorse of the colours for animals. I just use them a lot. So if we put just a light even layer down and then put the yellow ochre very gently over the top, and you can see that's more of a natural colour. And then the burnt ochre as well, it's lovely by itself, and it's definitely within the tiger, but to lighten that colour, again a light layer of warm grey 1 and just a little bit of the burnt ochre over the top. Now you can see this is sort of the colours, the first transition from the white. So we go white and then we move into this and then to here, and even a little bit underneath, and I would use a bit of both colours, either mixed or a bit of yellow in one area and a bit of burnt ochre in another. And keep going with, as we get up here, we might use a warm grey 2 underneath, just to soften some of these colours as we get a little bit darker. So that's the warm grey 2. Just a step up from the warm grey 1. So probably a light layer of the yellow, and then a light layer of the burnt, a little bit heavier, just slightly more pressure. And then it sort of transitions to that more orangey colour. Also the brown ochre is a brilliant colour on its own. It's quite yellow. It tends towards the yellow more than the orange. And again underneath, with the warm grey underneath, we can get some really nice transition colours. So you can go from warm grey 1 and just get darker with a bit more pressure to the brown ochre. So these would be colours sort of around here, I think a bit more than up here. But as I said, once you start to put it all together, you can just change what you're seeing, change your colours to suit, I should say. So here, if we go directly to the burnt ochre, we start to get a bit more orange. We can add a little bit of terracotta in there if we want a bit more orange. We don't want to get too gaudy. Another colour mix is a lovely colour to add in there by itself. It looks a bit unnatural, but you can see it's a very subtle red. It's India red, but it's very nice under yellow ochre. So if we just put a bit of yellow ochre, if we want a sort of a stronger, natural looking orange, we can just mix our own. We need a layer of red again. So this is sort of for areas like this. Sorry, another layer of yellow, just to even that out. So that's a nice mix. And we've got burnt sienna. Burnt sienna is it's a reddy brown, but you've got to play with it a little bit because sometimes it can trick you a little bit when you mix it with certain colours. And then you've got your caput mortuum, which is again a reddy brown, and you can see it's actually quite different to that. It's got that bluey purple tone as well. And again, it can be mixed with something like the burnt ochre, which is your middle sort of orange colour. And you might want to put a little bit of caput mortuum over the top just to darken it. And these are all colours that, as I said, once you pick your range, they pretty much all go together. So just keep working through with your cinnamon if you ever need. The cinnamon, as I said, it's a lovely natural pink, and it's a colour that'll mix. If you want a soft orange, remember it's going to give you a nice natural looking apricot colour. So all of them can be intermixed, basically those colours that I had laid out before. So use them, practice swatch, so you make sure that you know what colours are going to work and what's not going to work, and just do your best and it will come. The more you do, the more experience you gain, the more confidence you gain, and then it becomes, each time it becomes easier.